It's time for Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors on ESPN 1027 FM. Brought to you by Bowling Green Refrigeration, Heating and Cooling and Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center. With your host, Brian Webb. Also starring John Kirby and Sergeant J.D. Williams from Mohawk Outdoors. Josh Honeycutt from Real Tree Outdoors. Also made possible by Swagger Bipods, the Van Store Bowling Green and Glasgow. Your Can-Am headquarters. Introducing Pabst Beef Jerky. Our national sponsor, Big & J Long Range Attractants. Segments in part by Rockcastle Shooting Center, The Rock, and Renegade Marine, featuring Real Tree's Michael Pendley Timber 2 Table Wild Game Recipes. Made possible by Outback Steakhouse, Bowling Green. And all phone interviews via the Linex of Bowling Green hotline. Get ready for all things outdoors. Here's your host, Brian Webb.
Welcome to SOKY's Great Outdoors. Glad to have you folks. Josh Honeycutt and I in here hanging out with Garrett Browning. Brian Webb out on assignment today. Josh, how's things going, buddy?
It's hot.
Yeah, it's hot. You got that right.
Yeah, my AC's out on the truck, so that's the wrong time of year for that to happen.
Yeah, that's
Got to get that fixed.
what perfect timing that is. My AC was going out in my truck too, and luckily I was able to sell it this morning, and the buyer was willing to deal with the AC going out. I guess maybe he's a mechanic or something. Who knows? Hope so. But yeah, not a good time to not have an AC, is it?
Yeah, absolutely not.
What about the deer hunting front, Garrett? Excuse me, Josh. What do you got going on right now? What are you doing?
You know, me personally, I'm just glassing from afar. That's it.
Kind of in a holding pattern now. Not a whole lot to do. Got all your early season work done, and just waiting on September, huh?
Absolutely.
Good deal. Yeah, got a cool show. We've got a guest coming up here in the next 30 minutes. Josh, who do we got coming in?
Yeah, Hank Forrester with QDMA. He's going to come on and talk a little bit about the Field to Fork program. Good
deal. Yeah, that'll be neat to hear about. What's the kind of the basis behind that program?
Yeah, it's just a program to educate people, and it really has to do with getting wild game on dinner tables. So
nice, absolutely, and that's a great way to recruit new hunters too, right? So I'm sure he'll talk to us about that. What about folks out there listening to Josh that maybe just haven't had time yet to start thinking about deer hunting until just very recently, haven't had an opportunity to get out and make some preparations? What would be your advice to those folks?
Yeah, there is a lot that we can be doing right now. There's also a lot we shouldn't be doing. If you've have long-standing permission on a property, or it's not new, that it's not the first year you've hunted it, it's best to have all your stuff done already, as we've talked about so often on here. But if you have not been able to, or if it's a new property that you just got permission to hunt, then obviously there's some things you can get in there and do. I would definitely get in and hang some cameras, start glassing from afar, see what you see, hang some stands if you like, But like I said, I prefer to have all that done already. But, we're in a different situation. We're here at home, John. You and I, that's where we are. We do all that stuff in advance. We hung all of our stands, at least a month to 2 months ago, if not, longer. But we're in a different situation where we're leasing ground up in Ohio. And talk a little bit about what we're doing up there.
Yeah, it's going to be a neat experience. Anytime you get to hunt out of state with good hunting buddies, it just doesn't get much better than that. So, yeah, you and I, we just trying to learn the property, right? So we spent a whole day up there a couple weeks ago, burnt some boot leather, so to speak, hung mini trail cameras, hung a few stands, or at least found where we were going to hang stands, right? And just learning the property, and kind of we're just in that anticipation mode right now of how it's going to play out. We have our theories. We've talked back and forth about what we think's going to happen, moves that we might make, but what we don't know, right? That's all kind of in the future, and it's going to play out, and we'll figure it out as it goes.
Absolutely, it's going to be a fun journey, and it's one that property that's going to be pretty cool. It looks really nice, both on an aerial map and in person. So, and we've already got some cameras up, and we've got some deer on camera and some nice ones. So, it's going to be a fun year, like you said.
Yeah, and one of the neat things about this property is very few properties do I hunt or have hunted in the past that had the potential to get better as the season goes on. This property in Ohio does have that potential to get better as the season goes on because of the great bedding areas, or just the great bedding in general on this property. There's bedding everywhere, so this this property is definitely going to hold deer. And when the pressure gets up and these deer are starting to feel it, I think it's going to push them into the core of this property where all this great bedding is at, and I think that's going to work to our advantage.
Yeah, it should be good. I know we're fixing to go to a break here momentarily, and then we'll be having Michael on here to tell us about something to eat, I think. And but yeah, it's going to be a fun year. We got a lot of cool stuff going on, and I'm excited about it.
Yep, me too, man. It's going to be fun. We'll be right back. Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors, 102.7.
Okay, I'm on 65 right now. Which exit do I take?
You're going to want to take I-165.
No, I'm on I-65.
No, take I-165. Should be on the sign.
I'm pretty sure that's not a 1 there. I'm pretty sure that's just another I. I-65?
Aye. Well, ahoy, Polloy.
Look, I'm looking at it. I just don't see a 1 there. It's just I-6.
Suffering from post-natural confusion? See Gary Force Paint and Body Shop. iCar Gold Shop, certified with a lifetime warranty. 311 Vanderbilt Drive behind the Scottsville Road Post Office.
Although hunting to most of us is much more than just harvesting animals, why not better your deer herd's health with Big & J Long Range Attractant? Big & J is highly digestible, high in protein, and isn't full of preservatives. With Big & J Long Range Attractants, you're not only exploiting one of the few weaknesses whitetails have, their stomachs, but you're maximizing antler growth, improving overall herd health, and pulling deer from your neighbor's property. So whether your goals are to fill the freezer, kill mature bucks, or both, Big & J Long Range Attractants will stack the odds in your favor, all the while making your deer herd bigger and healthier.
Man, that looks rough. That one got whacked good.
Yeah, I do know I'm getting sick of cleaning it up.
But it's all about the pay in the long run, right?
Yeah, you're right, but it'd be easier to quicker to go out and take us to Linex or Bowling Green.
Well, in the end, it's all about getting those hogs delivered, right?
You're right, but it sure is a mess. Forget about it.
Keep your bed easy to clean with Linex of Bowling Green, truck accessories, and more. Linex of Bowling Green on Louisville Road, Porter Pike intersection.
Sometimes the final step from overcoming an injury is taking the actual first step. I'm Danny Hartung with First Step Orthotics and Prosthetics. My partner, Jeremy Harris, and I have over 60 years' experience here in Southern Kentucky. Experience we put to work every day. Working with the latest orthotic and prosthetic technologies, we form a custom plan based entirely around you to get you to take the first step, whatever that may be for you.
First Step Orthotics for the first step and every step after. In Bowling Green on the 31W bypass by Batteries Plus.
Welcome back, everybody. We've got Michael Penley, Real Trees Timbered and Table, as always, with us. Michael, what's going on with you, buddy?
How's it going, guys?
Yeah, we're doing great. Just waiting for deer season. September 7th. It's seems like it's taking forever to get here, Michael.
It does, but man, it's right around the corner. And squirrel season came in last weekend, and dove season will be in a few days. At least we got a few things to do to pass the time till it comes in.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and y'all had a chance to get out and do some squirrel hunting, haven't you?
We did. We went both Saturday and Sunday this weekend. Last weekend, opening 2 days, and I'll be honest with you, that'll probably be the only 2 days I go until it cools off a little bit.
Yeah.
But y'all know Pyrosty's going to be out there 3 or 4 mornings a week, right up until deer season comes in, and probably even past that. So he's already put a few in the freezer.
Oh, I'm sure he has. I'd expect nothing less, Michael. It's a shame, and I fall into this category, about how few hunters started out squirrel hunting. That's kind of how they got introduced to it. But then as time goes on, they kind of get out of it, because they're spending more time deer hunting or hunting big game type stuff. So good to see you all out there enjoying the small game hunting that Kentucky has to offer.
Yeah, I love small game hunting. We rabbit hunt, we quail hunt, squirrels, of course, and dove, too. But, back when I was growing up, that's all we had. The deer, we had, I think a week-long season. You could only kill does on the last day of season.
Right.
It was pretty rare to even see a deer back then. So, I grew up squirrel hunting and rabbit hunting, come from a big rabbit hunting family. All the uncles and cousins would get together every weekend, and there might be 20 of us going, and 10 or 15 dogs. And we'd make a couple days out of it. We'd hunt daylight to dark, Saturday and Sunday, just about every weekend of season. So, rabbit hunting, small game hunting is kind of deep rooted with me.
Absolutely, and we're kind of dating ourselves, Michael, by admitting that those were Kentucky's regulations way back then, right? And if you go a little before that, even if you wanted to pursue the white-tailed deer in Kentucky, you were pretty much had to go to the woodlands, right? Which is now LBL.
Yeah, right. LBL. I think there were a few that could be hunted around Bernheim, but that was it. When my dad was growing up, there was no deer season, no gun season at all. They did eventually open an archery season, and I think he ended up killing one of the first deer killed in Muhlenberg County not long after they opened bow season. But, even when I was a kid, it was still a pretty short season and pretty limited. And Eastern Kentucky, even back then, didn't have any deer. Everybody from Eastern Kentucky, it would look like a migration. Opening weekend of gun season, everybody would come pouring in to hunt, where there was an actual deer season. So we've really got it lucky now. It's a lot better than it used to be as far as hunting opportunity goes.
Absolutely. I've heard you say it many times on this show. We really are kind of living in the good old days right now, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, we've got turkeys. We didn't have turkeys when I was growing up. I remember when NWTF and Kentucky Fish and Wildlife released the first birds on the farm next to ours, some of the first ones in our area.
Yep.
So, those first turkey seasons, we didn't know anything about it. There wasn't an internet. There were just a few videos out. We learned to hunt turkeys by reading magazines and listening to cassette tapes on how to call.
Well, and getting out there and making mistakes too, right, Michael? Kind of trial by fire there, getting out there and doing it and learning it on your own.
I can't tell you how many birds I called in and blew
a
chance at a shot before I finally killed one.
Absolutely.
It was trial and error back then.
Absolutely. Well, we're talking about this wild game. Let's talk about how to cook it. What do you got going on in that category, Michael?
Well, in honor of squirrel season coming in, we cooked up one of our favorite squirrel recipes. And everybody, they kind of go back to a couple old standbys, either fried squirrel if you've got a young one, or squirrel and dumplings if you kill an older squirrel that's a little tougher. And both of those are great, and we still eat them all the time. But that's not all you can do with squirrel meat. So this week we put a couple of older squirrels that we had back from the spring season. That's another thing. We never even dreamed of a spring squirrel season back then, but we've got one now.
Right.
So we had a couple of older squirrels, 3 of them in the freezer, and we put those in a slow cooker with some fire-roasted tomatoes, some green chilies, and let them simmer for 5 or 6 hours until they were tender and falling off the bone. Then we boned all that meat out, tossed the bones, put the meat back into the tomato and pepper mixture and let that simmer for a little bit longer. Then we made a real easy dough that I use for all of my hand pies, Michigan pasties or empanadas or whatever. And we're doing empanadas with these. So you roll out a little bit of dough and spoon out some of that squirrel filling onto the center of it and top it with a little cheese and a little cilantro, and then flop it over and crimp those edges into a pie and bake that until it's, nice and flaky and golden brown. And it's a great way to use up some older squirrels and have something a little different than your standard squirrel and dumplings.
Yeah, that sounds exceptional, Michael. What's one of your favorite, let's just say all-time favorite ways to cook squirrel? Is it fried, or what is it for you?
If I had to pick, I would say it would be a young squirrel fried.
Yeah.
It's still the bread and butter is still one of my favorites. So.
What about maybe we've got a mother or a father out listening that want to get their kid out into the squirrel woods? What's kind of your mark for how many squirrels you need to feed per person, or how do you look at that?
Yeah, if they're young squirrels, we've got a pretty big, family of 5, and Pyros especially, and me, kind of big eaters. So I'll try to get 3 or 4 squirrels to feed us. A smaller family or a family that didn't eat quite as much as we do, you could probably get by with 2 or 3. So you're not looking at a large time investment. You can generally go out and get that in a decent morning. So
Sure. Josh, did you grow up squirrel hunting?
It was something that I didn't do a ton of, but it's something that I have enjoyed a good bit of later in life.
Yep. What kind of was your introduction to hunting? What kind of species did you start out with?
Deer and turkey.
What about you, Michael?
It was strictly small game for me. Rabbit and squirrel, dove, quail.
Did you ever hunt at the woodlands any?
We did. We used to go down there and hunt some, and up until just a few years ago, we used to go down there and bow hunt some. But it's been a while now. But we were an hour away. Our farm's kind of on the Pond River bottoms, along close to Christian County. So we weren't that far away from LBL, and it wasn't a big deal to load up and head down and hunt for a day or two.
There's been over the years, there's been some really nice deer come out of LBL, hasn't there, Michael?
There has a surprising number of nice deer. If you look at it overall, the habitat is not that great. It's getting to be a lot of old growth timber in there.
Yep.
And, I know people, some people especially, are really against cutting any of the timber out of LBL, but it's really doing a disservice to the wildlife, because that old growth timber it won't support the amount of wildlife that a recently timbered area will. And I don't think there's near as many deer there as there used to be.
No, there's not. There's been some studies too here just in the last few years. Deer numbers have really declined there, and you're exactly right. That's got to be a big reason why, wouldn't you imagine?
Yeah, it is, and predator numbers they've skyrocketed down there. And that's another thing, that old growth forest, there's no cover for the fawns. There's no place for them to hide. They're just kind of setting ducks for the coyotes and the predators down there.
Michael, man, as always a pleasure listening to your awesome recipes and getting to hang out with you and pick your brain. We sure appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, Michael Penley, we'll be back with Mark Zona when we come back. Brian caught up with him. He is a familiar face in the fishing world, has hosted many shows. Should be a great interview. We'll be right back. Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors.
It's not luxury, it's fuel. And at Southern States, we know that when the temperature drops, the water needs heating. Or when it's dinner time, you need to know your tank is full. Count on Southern States to be your local propane supplier. Call today for a fill-up. Have a competitor's tank? No problem. Southern States offers a tank swap out at no cost to you. Call Southern States Co-op in Bowling Green, Franklin, and Russellville today and talk to them about taking care of your propane, heating oil, or diesel fuel for your home, farm, or business. Because empty is never an option.
Earl, where in the Sam Hill have you been? I called you an hour ago.
Luann, I had to load the boat and stop for some soda pops.
Well, I'm sure glad you're including me in your priorities. They are still not working. Now the chair is stuck to my hind end, Earl. That is not funny. If I don't get this chair loose, it's liable to ruin my new, fun summer shorty shorts.
All right. Get in the bed of the truck.
What?
I'll take you to...
No.
You can't fit in the cab with that chair stuck to your backside, Luann.
This is ridiculous.
The doctor will see you now.
What seems to be the problem?
Well, obviously this chair is stuck to my fanny.
Actually, I've seen this before. It's called sticky chair. First thing, you must turn to the experts at Bowling Green Refrigeration, Heating and Cooling for your Carrier unit.
Ours is one of them others.
Don't worry, they serve as Carrier and all other brands. Now, Earl, if you lend me a hand, let's get this chair.
Hold still, Luann. 1, 2...
Ouch!
Sweat, combined with furniture, can cause sticky chair. Take preventative measures now with Bowling Green Refrigeration, Heating and Cooling. Servicing Carrier and all others. 270-782-5391.
It's boating season in Kentucky, and if you're looking to get on the water with a smile, Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center is the place to go. Check out the new Nitro Z20 for the ultimate bass getting experience. Or family fun in a Regency 230 DL3. You'll be the best parents on the lake. How about the best of both worlds and a 2019 Sun Tracker Bass Buggy 18 DLX? If you're needing fishing, tackle, boating accessories, or maybe a quality pre-owned boat, Renegade Marine has those too. So whether it's a Nitro, Sun Tracker, or Regency, Renegade Marine, your authorized Tracker Marine boat dealer, has your outdoor fun covered. 270-259-0001, renegademarine.net.
It's time to go fishing with Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center, 415 Commerce Drive, Litchfield, Kentucky, on SOKY's Great Outdoors.
You heard it right there, folks. Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center fishing segment here on Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors. And I tell you what, on the Line X hotline, somebody that I've always just marveled at when I've seen him on, whether it be TV, movies. He's done a movie. He's done so much stuff in the world of bass fishing, and he's an ambassador for us all. Mr. Mark Zona, they call him Z. What's up, man? Welcome to the show.
I don't know if it was a movie. It was not quite a major film. I can definitely promise you that.
We're referring to the Bait Shop with Mark or the Envell guy there from the comedy tour, and I'll tell you what. And I think Billy Ray Cyrus was on there, wasn't he?
I'm pretty sure there has not been any phone calls for a sequel on that.
Man, speaking of sequels, we grew up together. I might ask you some stuff like that. Or we grew up at the same time. I wish we'd have grown up together. That'd be much cooler. But, man, let's start kind of with your youth, Z. I mean, I think you grew up somewhere around south side of Chicago. Am I right?
You know, I did. I grew up. It was a pretty rough area, rough time, and it's weird. We're talking about this, and if I can paint a picture for your listeners, my parents had a really small cabin on a lake in southwest Michigan, and I'm staring at that lake right now. I kind of, this was my escape throughout, you know, my teenage years, and it bled into fishing tournaments. I started fishing tournaments when I was 9 or 10 years old, and lo and behold, I ended up moving here.
Man, and I think the first tournament, like back in like '82 or something, like you jumped in the boat with a guy, and you guys ended up cashing out. I mean, your first run, didn't you?
We ended up making $3,500. I remember showing the money to my father, and he drove me back to that guy's house to find out exactly, because he did not trust what the heck happened. But that is no joke. That is the day I'll you know, when you grew up on the south side of Chicago, you played baseball. You played baseball, and that's what you did. And that was the day I retired from Little League.
Oh, that's great. I can see that. I can see you being a baller, because I got to meet you once, and you're just a massive guy. I mean, what are you like, 6'5" or something?
I think I'm 6'4", 2. I'm back in the 230s.
2-something. So did you pitch a little and little? I mean, was that your? Did you? Where did you play? What was your position?
I was a catcher. I was a full blown catcher and batted third, and I either struck out or hit it damn far. I could
regular Bambino there. I love it. But yeah, you know, I guess your dad did want to go over there and check that out. That's big money for a 9 or 10 year old, and he, you know, it's like he thought maybe you were white boy Rick there for a second. I don't know. Man, that's awesome stuff. What a cool childhood, though. I mean, Cubs or White Sox?
Oh, come on. That's not even a question, man. White Sox all the way.
Oh!
Come on.
I'm sure
Here's what's interesting. I'll live by this. If you wanted to watch a baseball game, you went to a Sox game. If you went looking for girls, you went to a Cubs game.
Man, that's the best analogy I've ever heard from anybody out of Chicago. That is awesome. I'll tell you, and how did you get, you're out there grinding like my father did and lots of guys did, grinding, trying to make a living doing that. When did the TV thing come about? I mean, how did that happen? I know how I got into the business, and, you know, it's a cool story in itself, but it can't be anywhere near as cool as Mark Zona's story. How did you get into that?
You know, it was strange. And I guess in a Cliff Notes version, since the day I walked out of a little community college here in southwest Michigan, all I did throughout my teens and 20s is I fished, I cherry-picked tournaments around the Midwest, all the way up to where we were at, this last week for Bassmaster, all the way up to my track record on Thousand Islands. I mean, that's how I pay bills. I fished tournaments, and I sold Ranger bass boats really throughout the early 90s to the early 2000s. And I'm not kidding. I had one. I had 1 year where I kind of went on a pretty good run. That was back in the EverStart series, and some of the bass, what they were called invitationals at the time. And I got a call from a dude at ESPN, and what's weird about it is, I finally got to the point where I was making a living, and I'm like, man, I don't want to jeopardize this and do this goofy TV thing. And my wife said, no, you need to try this, just because if you fail at it, no, not if, when you fail at it, you can go back to tournaments and selling boats. And that is exactly how that really happened about 17, 18 years ago. That's exactly the story of where it started. And I'm not saying I know what I'm doing now, but I could tell you when I started doing TV on ESPN, heck, I didn't have the best part is remembering back to when I negotiated my own contract. Those people must have laughed at me when they got off.
Like being your own attorney.
Sounded good to me.
Yeah, that looks good. Where do I sign? I know
exactly.
Well, listen, obviously it was meant to be, and we all know now, fast forwarding, that it was an absolute marriage made in heaven. And you bring a lot of joy to people from their couch and their TV set. And, fishermen themselves love to tune in. I've never heard one person say they did not. And my father, he's the biggest critic of all. And, I mentioned I was going to be having you on, and he was like, he tunes in every now and then, but he's like, I've got to make sure I listen to that because I love Z. So, I mean, you touch a lot of hearts, Mark, and it's amazing that you've been able to use the gifts that you were given in such a positive way. And let's talk about your family life. I know you have, I believe, 2 sons. Do you have any more kids?
No. Heavens, no. I got 2 good kids, man. They're 20 years old. They went to the exact same community college, and I'm not going to lie, this week I am missing the Cayuga Bassmaster tournament. I have not missed a tournament in a while because we're bringing them to Michigan State on Saturday, and I'll be consoling Karen Zona as soon as they leave. She's had a couple mental breakdown that her buddies are leaving. So I'm going to stick around the house this weekend, make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, good move on your part there, sir. Good time to say, hold on a minute, professional world. I got to be a pop this weekend. Well, congratulations to them. Great school that they're headed to. Looking to see how they're going to do there, and I'm sure it'll be great. And what kind of field are they thinking about? Anything like you're into, or what are they into? What field would they like to jump in?
It pretty much depends on what day you ask them that question.
Isn't that true?
One day I think one's going to be the quarterback of the Patriots when Tom Brady leaves, and the other one will be taking on Seth Feiter and Chris Zaldane in the Elite Series in 4 years. So.
I love it. I'll tell you what. That's great. And we're going to talk one second here in this, and I want to finish up chatting with my local buddy, Matt Robertson, and his showing down there in Knoxville earlier this year. I wanted to get your thoughts on him. But I read something or heard you say something one time about that catching your first fish. I can remember my first bass, and I can remember it vividly, and I was just absolutely, no pun intended, hooked, if you will. So, I mean, obviously, you have a passion for fishing like all of us that love it do. But it's that feeling you get, and we do this fishing event every year, Mark. Or we do it for a different charity every year. But it's one of those things to where we bring kids out there, put a pole in their hand, take that Xbox out of their hand, that controller, and put a fishing rod in there. And the local lady at the KOA, she stocks it up, keeps everybody out for like a week, so these fish are hungry. Everybody catches a catfish or something. We had a kid catch a 3-pound crappie, which has got to be the KOA world record. I don't know. He's about 4 years old. Unbelievable. But it's seeing that joy reciprocate through all these kids that are catching these fish. What would you describe that? I forget how you said it. I wish I would have written it down when I heard it, but you said it best. You want that feeling again and again, right?
We chase that. Every one of your every single one of your listeners. It's weird. I always felt like I was chasing that feeling of when it's so strange we're talking about this. I'm staring right now at the bank where I caught that first bass when I don't know. I was probably 4 years old. But here's the bizarre thing. I remember the color of the pontoon boat that I threw my little 3-hook worm next to. I remember the color of the sky. And what's weird is I truly believe that. I truly believe we all chase that feeling. And sometimes we get it. Sometimes, we get that, that we get that thirst quenched when it happens again. But I mean this, and this is not some goofy sales pitch. We owe it to passing that on to people that might never feel that feeling. I always told my kids when they were, early teenage years, I said, you guys have been spoiled with smallmouth and big, chasing big bass. And I said, you owe it to the outdoor community to pass that on to somebody else. That is our job, is to pass that feeling on. And whether you pass it on to a young kid, an older person, whether my show does that every now and then, when somebody walks up to me and says, I truly started fishing from watching your show, Bud, you take all the sponsors and all that, the corporate world of what I live in, that is what my job is. That's what all of our job is, to pass that on to somebody. And hopefully somewhere where, I've done that, my kids have done that.
Well, I got cold chills, man. I can't add to that. I mean, that's unbelievable. So well said, sir. And you're absolutely a great ambassador to this sport and to this lifestyle. And I'm amazed with you. I'm going to finish up. My man, Matt Robertson, I got to come down and I got to cover him and Ratliff, who amazing fishermen, both of them, in their own right. But Matt comes out in a mink coat. What were you guys thinking when you first got a load of Matt Robertson?
Do you know what an HM is?
An HM?
A hot mess. Dude, I walked in to this is no joke, I walked into the classic banquet dinner, and I'm not a big dress-up, but, man, I try to sneak in there and run out as fast as I can. But I walked in, I saw him with the mink coat, the top hat. This is a true story. I looked at Seth Fighter and I said, you have been outdone and you've got work to do to catch up to that thing right there. But in all honesty, I have followed Matt since that classic.
Oh, yeah.
And somewhere, I am absolutely positively going to do a Zona show with that.
Oh,
Matt.
Listen, it would be one for the ages, and I love him. He's a great soul, and I'll tell you what, take all the jokes aside, Z, he's an incredible bass fisherman.
There's no doubt. I have followed what he's done, especially in, he's a hammer in your region. I followed him every day since that classic. And the other thing is, and I mean this, it's obvious he knows what to do with a rod and a reel. But to go to your first classic, and I'm going to say your first because he's going to be there again.
I like it.
He absolutely owned it and had fun. And, Bud, that is honestly what life is about.
Yep.
And he did not go there and do your stereotypical, ooh, I'm happy to be here, dude. He owned that week.
He totally did. And you own every week, sir. Hats off to you. We've been chatting with Mark Zona, Bass Master. You can find him, unless you've been in a coma for the last 15 years, you know who Mark Zona is in the bassing world. Mark, I can't thank you enough for doing SOKY's Great Outdoors, man.
Great time, man. I'm honored to be on, and anytime I can be on again, I'm all in. Thank you.
Oh, are you kidding me? You can come here every day. We'll be right back on SOKY's Great Outdoors, ESPN Radio 102.7.
In stores now, Pabst Grippo's Beef Jerky. We have taken the great Pabst beef jerky and married it with the iconic Grippo's barbecue seasoning. This is a marriage made in beef jerky heaven. The thin cut of Pabst beef jerky is dusted to perfection with Grippo's seasoning. Once you try it, you will know no other beef jerky compares. So the next time you're headed on a road trip to the lake or your favorite golf course, be sure to have Pabst beef jerky fueling your outdoor lifestyle. PabstJerky.com. Ask for us at your local store.
This is Nate from Rock Castle Shooting Center. Did you know that one of the premier shooting ranges in the world is right here in South Central Kentucky? Rock Castle Shooting Center has something for everyone's recreational shooting enjoyment. From 3D archery to our brand new sporting clays course, handgun ranges full of steel to targets out to a mile. There's no better place to get some trigger time than Rock Castle Shooting Center. Non-members are welcome, and memberships start at $150 per year. We offer a fantastic range of firearms training and education opportunities from the most basic to the most advanced. Come see us, exit 48 on I-65, Park City, Kentucky. Visit rockcastleshootingcenter.com.
The Vance store has in stock today the Liberty Zero Turn Mower by Skag. The Liberty Zero Turn Mower by Skag is available at a cut size as small as a 36-inch and as large as a 60-inch. You can buy a 36-inch Skag Liberty Zero Turn Mower for as low as $39.99. You can buy a 61-inch Skag Liberty for as low as $52.99.99. Can you believe it? A 61-inch Skag Zero Turn Mower for $52.99.99. Get a 5-year warranty, too. Come see the Vance store for a Skag Zero Turn Mower and get the mower that is simply the best.
Finally done. Oh, I need a steak right now.
No worries, mate. Outback Steakhouse at Bowling Green now delivers.
What? Who said that? I can have Outback at home?
Just sit back, relax, put an order in at Outback.com, and they'll bring your Aussie favorites right to your door.
Thank you, oh great spirit of the Outback.
What? Oh, no, mate. I'm just a figment of your imagination. And remember to take your shoes off at the door. Got grass stains everywhere last time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Outback Steakhouse at Bowling Green delivers. Start your order right now at Outback.com.
The hunting in East Beverly Hills getting sorry every day. Me and Duke went as far back in the brush as you could go. The only thing we flushed out was a couple of real estate agents.
It's time to do some hunting on SOKY's Great Outdoors. Brought to you by Rock Castle Shooting Center at Park Mammoth Resort, 22850 Louisville Road in Park City, Kentucky.
Hank, how you doing?
How about yourself?
Doing great. You know, we appreciate you coming on today, and you know, the QDMA is a big advocate for deer hunters and deer as well, and you know, we appreciate everything that the QDMA does and everything you guys continue to do. And we wanted to bring you on today and talk a little bit about the Field to Fork program that you guys are promoting right now.
Well, thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about the program and inform the listeners on what they need to know when it comes to it.
All right. Well, you know, I got to give credit where credit's due. And the Field to Fork name, logo, brand began in the state of Kentucky with the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. And through QDMA and a partnership there, we knew about Field to Fork. QDMA volunteers were being the mentors for the deer program. And in 2016, I was fortunate to sit on the selection committee and steering committee for the Georgia R3 program, and that's recruitment, retention, and reactivation. It's the technical term for how we, you know, recruit and retain hunters, or how hunter numbers are based. And we hired a young guy named Charles Evans, and he's the co-founder of kind of the Field to Fork Athens, or the Field to Fork QDMA model that we started. But over lunch one day in 2016, we decided that we were going to go set up a table at the local farmers market and try to recruit hunters. R3 really has two goals, and that's to increase hunting participation and to increase societal acceptance of hunting. And I had you know, some involvement going back and forth with the Athens Farmers Market previously. They were doing chef demonstrations. And I thought it'd be really cool to bring a deer and break it down and show locals, you know, that you could do this. And I really wasn't the expert on breaking down a deer in front of an audience, and we just couldn't get the schedules aligned. But when we decided we wanted to do a, you know, adult-focused, food-focused hunter recruitment program, it just made sense to go set up a table at the farmers market. And that's exactly what we did. And a lot of people out there think, oh, my gosh, you know, you walked into the Lion's Gate or whatever, but we've absolutely had the warmest reception. We released a video yesterday on our social media, on YouTube. You can find it on our website, but it really does a great job of showing the viewer who we're recruiting, what we're doing, and we've had a really warm reception, and it's been quite a wild ride.
That's great, Hank. John Kirby here again. Thanks for coming on and hanging out with us and talking to us about this Field to Fork program. Now, is that a national program?
So we piloted in Athens, Georgia, again in 2016. The first year we ran it, Charles is a graduate of University of Georgia, and QDMA is headquartered in Bogart, Georgia, 5 miles out of town, and we're here because UGA really has the foremost deer research facility in the world. And a lot of my staff and the founder of QDMA are all graduates from there. And Charles is a graduate of Warnell as well. And so the first year that we decided to do this, we set up a table. We filled up in 3 hours at the Saturday Farmers Market, had a waiting list. And, we show up at the Farmers Market with a spread of venison. We had some backstrap, some bratwurst, and jerky. And we lead off with, hey, would you like to try some venison? Get a couple eye rolls, but it's probably because you're offering venison to a vegan or vegetarian. Little aside, though, we've actually taught 6 ex-vegan and vegetarians how to hunt in the last 3 years in the Athens program. But we lead off with that. We gauge their interest. Most people will take you up on sampling venison. We're working on all the stereotypes of gaminess and everything. I really enjoy the reaction, and especially the people who are like, I don't like venison. I'm like, just try one bite. I promise you, someone cooked it poorly for you because this is delicious, and I promise you it will be. But, if they take us up on the venison, I'll ask them if they eat a lot of venison. Surprisingly, I get a lot of people who say yes, and they're not hunters, so maybe they're getting it from friends who hunt. I'm not exactly sure. But, if I see that interest in them, I'll say, hey, we're actually here to recruit hunters for an adult, mentored hunting program. We do 2 afternoons of training in my office. We take them on a weekend mentored deer hunt. And the first year we paired them with graduate students from the University of Georgia Deer Lab, thinking, these are experts on deer. This will be perfect. It was great. They were great mentors. But that year, I think 3 of 8 harvested a deer, and all 3 of those were sitting with myself or Charles. And so we quickly realized this wasn't a sustainable model. We couldn't dedicate, our time to hosting 8 new hunters. But in 2017, we recruited the local Athens branch of the Quality Deer Management Association, and their members, they're kind of their top members, and they offered access, they offered to mentor for us, and so now we really we do the education, we have the weekend hunt. You need to have it on your calendar, you need to do that so it happens. But the real success of the program comes in the follow-up opportunities, and we pair them with these local hunters and mentors, and they offer access, they offer advice, they offer a phone number to call if you have a question or you get a deer and you need help. But that's really when the program became successful. And from there, we've really worked on creating the materials necessary, standardized curriculum. This video is just kind of the icing on the cake so we can truly show the world what we're doing. They've been able to read about it for multiple years. But last year, quoted in the video, we hosted Field to Fork events in 8 states. Kentucky continues to expand theirs, and it's doing a great job. And this year, we'll have a little over 20 programs in 12 states. So we're really trying to replicate it. We're trying to help anybody who has interest in it, working with NWTF. The original one in Athens that we started with a cooperative approach. So we brought in NWTF and the Georgia Wildlife Federation, who Charles technically works for, and the Georgia DNR is a partner. And we're tracking all the data. We have their license numbers so we can see if they buy license in the future. That's a big part of the R3 initiative, is we've got to figure out how to create hunters, and actually look to make sure we're doing a good job. And that was our whole point. Our goal in this is to create licensed buyers. And I'm sure your listeners know the correlation between hunting license and conservation in this country. But our ultimate goal is to create lasting hunters, and we tweaked and worked on this program, and it really works. We're seeing around 80% of our participants continue hunting.
Very cool. It's a lot of good work that you guys and others are doing, and we commend you all, and we appreciate everything. Is there anything else that you can share with us on the program, or maybe an upcoming event that's going on with the QDMA, or anything like that you can share with our listeners?
I think the biggest thing is, this Field to Fork program is awesome, but, the listeners need to understand that, today only 4.5% of Americans hunt. And I know that, Kentucky has a huge culture of hunting. We have a huge culture of hunting in this country, and it seems like current hunters surround themselves with hunters. And I often hear from people, everybody I know hunts. And it's statistically not possible. And we need everybody to understand that it's going to have repercussions if we continue to be a smaller percentage of the population. And if hunting licenses continue to decrease, conservation funding in this country is going to continue to decline. And so whether you want to, get involved with a program like Field to Fork or an organized youth hunting program, QDMA hosts what I think is the largest youth hunt in the country in Kentucky. We've done a Kentucky military youth hunt for over 10 years. We have multiple locations in the state. They host, 60 hunters on the youth weekend in Kentucky. But really, individual mentorship is going to be what changes and moves that needle and tries to get more people. And to remain relevant in society, we need to diversify as hunters. So I would really just say to all your listeners, this year especially, talk to people about hunting that you don't think are hunters, because they might be much more receptive than you think. Share venison meals with people. The venison diplomacy may be our best tool. But really, take a new hunter with you today, youth or adult. But, put in some diligent time. Teach them what they need to know. I believe creating a hunter is about confidence. They have to know how to take care of an animal once they shoot at it, and they have to be confident enough to self-identify as a hunter, which is a confidence level. And if you can help somebody do that, not only will it be your most rewarding activity afield this year, I firmly believe that, it'll pay dividends down the line for the future of hunting and the future of conservation. And it's all our jobs. If we really, truly love hunting and we love the activity, it's our job to pass it on. So that's really what I'd leave the listener with is, get out there and introduce somebody new to hunting this year, and you'll have a ton of fun. And Field to Fork is a ton of fun.
That's great information, Hank, and some wonderful insight. And we want to commend you for everything you're doing, everything QDMA does and continues to do. And we sure appreciate you hanging out with us and dropping some knowledge on us.
I really appreciate y'all having me.
Thanks so much, Hank.
All right. Have a nice day.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. Be right back on Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors.
Hey, it's Nick Noble with the Rock Castle Gun Show here. We're talking about Swagger bipods. Do you want just your average barrel rest, or do you want to shoot with some swagger? Introducing the Swagger bipods. They expand your shooting zone with Swagger, the all-terrain hunting bipod. After more than 100 years, finally shooters have a bipod with patented, flexible, hyper-extending telescopic legs that give you the agility like never before. So get rid of stiff legs and get the bipod with infinite maneuverability. Swagger, the bipod that moves.
This is Nate from Rock Castle Shooting Center. Did you know that one of the premier shooting ranges in the world is right here in South Central Kentucky? Rock Castle Shooting Center has something for everyone's recreational shooting enjoyment. From 3D archery to our brand new sporting clays course, handgun ranges full of steel to targets out to a mile. There's no better place to get some trigger time than Rock Castle Shooting Center. Non-members are welcome, and memberships start at $150 per year. We offer a fantastic range of firearms training and education opportunities from the most basic to the most advanced. Come see us, exit 48 on I-65, Park City, Kentucky. Visit rockcastleshootingcenter.com.
If you're a single man under the age of 35, you'd probably like to know what the ladies are looking for on an online dating site. A guy who had a few drinks and later got pulled over for buzzed driving. See, that could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And doesn't a guy who's back living with his parents but calls them my roommates just scream Mr. Right?
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors. Got about 10 minutes to wrap it up here, Josh. Well, what do you want to talk about, buddy?
Yeah, let's talk about bucks that's taught us lessons.
Man, there's been a lot of them for me.
Lots of them. You know, bucks that got away, that taught lessons, and bucks that are on the wall. So
I'd say more often than not, it's the buck that got away. For me, anyway, that taught me the most.
Absolutely.
I mean, certainly there's been some deer that I've killed that taught me a lot, but I think those bucks that get away seem to really stick with you, or they do me anyway.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. You know, one of the biggest ones that come to my mind, and I've actually referenced this deer on the show in the past, it's the deer that I called Smiley, and it's kind of funny because he looks identical. We were just talking about this during the break. He looks identical to one of the target bucks that I'm watching this year. The crazy thing is, I know it's not the same deer because we kind of went back and done the math. It would put this deer at 9.5 years old, and that is possible. But there were some other reasons why we distinguished that it wasn't him too. But he looks identical to a deer that I'm watching this summer, and on the same farm, obviously. But the lesson that buck taught me was you can be too intrusive. And we talk about it all the time. Hang your seasons during the postseason, back during the spring or very, very early summer. This was a buck all the way back, kicking it back to 2013. And I got pictures of the deer in an area that I didn't have stands. And I went in there, and it was still fairly early. It was like late June, early July. And I went in there to hang that stand. And then, boom, I never saw the deer again. And, I didn't bump the deer out while I was there either because, obviously I would have heard the deer run off or I would have heard him blow if he blew. I don't think he was there. I think he just came through later on.
Cut your trail later on.
Yeah, and then that was that.
Yeah. That's a good lesson, too, for all of us. We don't have to physically bump a deer to bump that deer. That deer can detect human presence days after we leave. That's good stuff there.
And that's why I try to, and I know you do the same, I try to make sure that I do any in-the-field work right before rain.
Right.
And that can help.
Absolutely, no doubt. And outside of wrapping yourself in a bubble, there's not a whole lot you can do. You can take all the precautions in the world to be scent-free, but scent-free is a misnomer, really. There's no such thing, especially when it comes to a deer's nose.
Yeah, about the only thing you do is get a hazmat suit.
Yeah, and even then, I'm not so sure because, there's just a lot of variables there. But so a buck that's taught me a lesson, it's actually going on right now, and it's a buck that I plan on hunting, and I've named him Freeway, and the reason I named him that is because he's actually bedded within 20 yards of an interstate. And if you were looking on a map, I could take 100 knowledgeable hunters, and I would bet 99% of them would never guess a mature buck that would bed where this deer is bedding. But it's just a perfect example of
and that's
how
why the
often,
deer's there.
Exactly. That's just a perfect example of how often these bucks utilize bedding spots that are conducive to them. Just because it doesn't look right to us, that doesn't mean it's not right to them. And this deer's bedded within 20 yards of an interstate. He's doing it every day. I've got a lot of velvet footage of him, and it's maybe not taught me a lesson. It's just reiterated a lesson.
Yeah, for sure. Another one that, and I'm not going to hit this one, but briefly, there was a deer that I hunted a while, years ago. This was probably back in 2012. I don't know, maybe 11. But anyway, it was a deer that really taught me how important entry and exit routes were. And I actually bumped the deer, and I saw the deer and bumped him whenever I went in to hunt that deer. And it really reinforced, and that's really whenever I started really paying attention more, was back around that 2010 to 2012 range. Not just paying attention to where my stand locations were, but how I got in and out to them, to and from them.
Is that based on wind or what?
Yeah, but in this case, it was based on bedding location. The deer was bedding a little bit closer to the stand than I thought he was, and there was nothing wrong with that. Had I taken a better entry route, I wouldn't have bumped the deer. But he was bedded fairly close to that stand, and I took a wrong route in. I approached, I think, from the east, and I really should have approached from the south to have not bumped that deer.
Yeah, good stuff. You got another one on hand?
Yeah, there's another one, that really comes to mind here. And it's a deer that I hunted back in 2011, I think it was, and never did catch up to the deer. Funny story was the neighbor ended up killing him the next fall over 2 miles away.
Wow.
And that shows you just how much home ranges can change.
Absolutely. No question about it. Yeah, one that comes to mind for me is early November. Actually, I think it was maybe like the last couple of days of October, and it was unseasonably warm. But I had a pretty good pattern on a buck that I was hunting, and I hadn't seen him. It was like 9:30 in the morning, and I thought, man, I'm crazy to be in here because it was getting to be like 70 degrees. Pretty late in the morning, like I said, and I thought, man, I'm getting out of here. It's too hot. There's no way a deer is going to be moving in this. And as I start climbing down the tree, I hear something behind me, and it's him, and he's staring at me. And, man, that just kind of reiterated a lesson there that, deer don't just move in optimal conditions. Deer have to eat. They have to have water. They have to have all those necessities, and they'll move in the heat. And that goes perfectly well for the upcoming season. There's been a lot of big deer killed in 90-degree weather, right? It's miserable for the hunter, but just because the weather's not quite right, if you got a good wind, there's a chance.
Absolutely. Another one that comes to my mind is a deer that I called Skyscraper. That's a completely unoriginal name. But it was a really tall 8-pointer, and I followed him for, I think it was 6 or 7 years, at least 5, maybe 6 or 7. I'd have to pull up my trail camera pictures to be sure. But anyway, it was the deer I was just showing you during the break, and we were flipping through all the different years of trail camera images.
Yep.
And the lesson that deer taught me was that home ranges can stay the same. And his home range every single year was identical. I never really actively hunted that deer because I was, hunting other deer. I had some other deer that was a little bit bigger, a little bit more huntable. This deer, even though his core area and home range was in the exact same spot, he wasn't real daylight active. He was only moving maybe 30, 40, 50 yards from his bed, I think, during daylight. But it was the same every year. It never changed. And had I really actively pursued that deer, I think I could have got in position and eventually targeted and killed that deer. But what the deer taught me was that lesson, and also that deer are tough. Because the neighbor, I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe the deer got hit by a car, maybe he got shot, but he ended up losing half of his back leg. And he survived for 2 more seasons after that.
That's impressive. Yeah, they are incredibly tough animals. There's no question about that. You saying Skyscraper, that brought me to this point is a lesson that I learned, and it's probably every buck that I've ever seen or hunted, and that is that I am terrible at naming deer. That's why I try not to even do it, because I don't even feel right naming a deer. It's hard, and we've talked about that a little bit.
I did it a little bit back in the day, and I'd say I probably didn't give a deer a name from like 2013 to like this year. And then, of course, me and you, John, we're working on a project now, which we're not going to talk about right now, but we're working on a project where we kind of have to name deer.
Right.
So, it's going to be a fun project, and we might talk a little bit more about it on there later this year. We actually will, but we're not going to do that today. But, it has been weird because haven't historically, especially for like the last 5-6 years, I haven't named any deer. And now I'm having to name deer again, and you're having to name deer. The funny thing is I'm just trying to be as facetious as possible. Like the number 1 target buck that I'm plan to hunt this year, his name is Bog, and it's an acronym for Big Old Goodin.
Big Old Goodin. That's pretty good. Well, you're better at it than me. In fact, when I name a deer and I say it out loud, just so the listeners know, my skin crawls a little bit when I say a named deer that I've named. So
I just plan on being super facetious. It's gonna be Big Old Goodin, and that BMB or Big Monster Buck. It's gonna be stupid stuff.
I like it. I thought about going with like sports figures maybe or rock stars, and then that deer. Exactly. Then that deer that I was just mentioned earlier that's bedding on the freeway, that one was just like so blaringly obvious.
Right. I have my next name picked out for the next big buck that shows up. If another big buck shows up, it's going to be BMW, Big Massive Whitetail.
There you go, man. Well, that's better than me. That's certainly better than me. Well, I enjoyed it, Josh, as always. We had a good guest on, Mr. Hank Forrester. Brian got to catch up with Mr. Mark Zona, who's a powerhouse name in the fishing world. We enjoyed bringing it to you, and we'll see you back here next Wednesday. Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors on 102.7.